Sorry about that. Did not mean to make this into a 3-part video, but my battery was low, so it cut off the recording. So yeah, these remind me, unfortunately, they remind me of my ex, which is going to bring up bad emotions and bad feelings. So yeah, man, these are like cheap mall scents. And usually mall scents are just like common ass scents that everybody wears to the mall, or that you spray it from testers. But like, this is just some shit that, you know, cheap girls who are trying to get some dick smell like. Probably 20-year-old girls, 20 to 25-year-old girls who don't know what good female perfume smells like. So this is gonna remind you of some cheap hood rat thoughts. So yeah, I don't recommend, unless you're a cheap hood rat thought who doesn't know how to get good cologne or good perfume. I don't recommend these. Although, like I said, this one smells interesting. It smells kind of like a lemon pop. So for a guy, this might not be terrible, but obviously, you know, I think it cost me like 20 bucks. I would not pay $20 for that again. Although it would be interesting to get a cologne as a man that smelled like lemon pop. I don't know if there is anything out there like that. I'll have to ask the community. But this kind of smells like lemon lime pop, almost like Sprite, mixed between Sprite and maybe Sprite, mixed between Sprite and 7-Up, at least on the initial spray. But the dry down turns to fucking nothing. So these colognes are like just cheap as fuck. Cheap as fuck. Really, they should be selling these for like $5. So it's a fucking ripoff. And I was pretty mad pretty quickly after I bought these. I don't even know why. I was smelling them in the store, and like, you know, when you're in the store, you're like, oh shit, I gotta buy something, and you just have that like that pressure to buy something vibe, and it's like, you know, I made a mistake. So I think for all these three, I think I spent like 60 bucks. So I wish I could get my money back and buy some nice designer shit. But anyway, so that's that. So my last cologne that I quote unquote hate is Versace Dreamer. I was pretty disappointed with this one. The bottle is pretty fucking weird. It looks like that He-Man guy who used to have he had the faces right here. He had like 3 or 4 faces or some shit. And then like I used to have the action figure, and you could turn the head, and like you could turn it this way and he'd have one face, and you turn it, you know, this way and he'd have another face, and you turn it all the way around, he'd have another face, turn it this way, you know, turn it again, he had another face. So it's like, so Versace makes pretty decent bottles. I guess the Pour Homme is the one that's like the most basic and boring. This one's not bad. I think it's got like Medusa right here or some shit, maybe Eros. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Eros. So this is the same, even though this is Versace Dreamer, this right here, this Greek god or whatever, this face from mythology, that's kind of cool. But oh man, I'm gonna have to wash my hand off from that fucking American Eagle bullshit. It smells bad. It's not mixing well, not doing well in the warm weather, although that first spray of lemon was good. But anyway, so this is the same little face as Eros, Versace Eros. So the bottle is not terrible. It's just old looking, and that fits because this is an old smelling cologne. I don't know why it says press there, like duh, who's not gonna fucking, so you can't even see. So that spray's alright. So this stuff is just like, it's almost like the Salvatore Ferragamo back there. This stuff is just really really meh. It's just meh as fuck. Maybe I could layer it with something, I don't know. Probably not. Oof, that smells bad mixed with the American Eagle. But no, this stuff is I was really disappointed in this one. I smelled Versace Blue Jeans. Blue Jeans even smells better than this, although Blue Jeans is basic as fuck. This is just a big disappointment. Because everybody, like, I don't want to say everybody, but a lot of people were actually hyping Versace Dreamer. And they were like, oh, Versace Dreamer smells good. Some might say it's a somewhat classy scent. Maybe in the cheapest sense of the word. Versace Dreamer is just I wore it a few times and I kind of liked it when I first wore it, but then I got better cologne and I was like, oh shit, this is what really good cologne is supposed to smell like. And I was like, oh, Versace Dreamer sucks. I can't say that it's like terrible smelling. It's just, I don't know how to put it, man. It's just really, 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 really underwhelming. I think I know I threw it in some of my reviews before. Um, it smells like the 80s. It smells like the 1980s. It smells like cheap cologne from the 80s. Not even good cologne from the 80s. Versace Eros back there kind of reminds me of like the 40s, 30s, and 40s. It's got this old school perfume, hairspray type vibe going on. This thing is like trying to be classy, but it's just like cheap. It's like somebody put nice rims on a Toyota Corolla or some shit. It's kind of what it's like. Or it's maybe not even that. Maybe it's like somebody maybe it's like somebody in 2019 is like driving around in like a, I don't know, like a you know, RX-7 or some shit. That might even be the best, like a Toyota MR2 or some bullshit. Some sports car from the 80s. Like you just look kind of stupid. Like you look outdated. You know what I mean? And it's not even that cool. It might have been kind of cool for a second in like 1989 or 1987 or something, but now in 2019 you just look stupid driving around in a Toyota sports car from the 1980s. So it's kind of like that. It's like this thing is dated and done. And I think it was Big Beard Business who did a video, and he was saying that I don't think he had Dreamer in there. He might have had Dreamer in there. Yeah, I think he did have Dreamer in there actually. But he had Versace Eros in there too, and I would somewhat now at this point I would agree with that. I would say Versace Eros is dated, although between the two, between Dreamer and Eros, I'll definitely pick Eros. And actually Eros smells not terrible. It doesn't smell terrible with if you mix it with the Pour Homme, Versace Pour Homme. Doesn't it smells pretty? It kind of enhances. It definitely enhances Eros, and it makes Eros smell decent. But yeah, man, Versace Dreamer is just a big disappointment. Hopefully I can trade this at some point. Not amazing. Really not amazing. Yeah, so it smells kind of cheap. It smells like 1980s cheap. Like this would probably even be cheap in the 1980s. If that makes sense. So do not blind buy this. Really do not blind buy any of these. Particularly the American Eagles and the Thallium, particularly. Like you might be able to get away with, I mean, people are going to get Eros regardless because of how much damn hype it has in the community. But people are probably going to buy Derby Clubhouse Blanche, although I don't recommend it, man. Don't do it. And Salvatore Ferragamo Pour Homme, someone's probably going to buy that at some point. Don't do that either, man. So really all these are just very underwhelming bad buys. And probably all together, this probably cost me like, I don't know, $180 for all these. So that's really kind of a waste, a disappointment. I think I blind bought every one of these besides the American Eagles because I was stupid. No, actually I didn't. I smelled the Versace Eros in the store, and my nose, it was one of the first ones that I had tested before I really knew what a good cologne smells like. And sometimes you'll get fooled. Sometimes you will get fooled. Sometimes you'll smell it and you'll get a first impression on it, and you're like, oh yeah, this is really good. And you'll sit with it for a while, and you'll be like, this is good. I like this. And then you buy it, and you're like, oh man, I don't like this. Like maybe it smells different on your skin, or maybe it's just that once you actually spray it a few times, because you have to sit with the cologne, man. You have to spend like 4 or 5 days with them individually before you really get a good feel about them. Which is just kind of like, that's the breaks. That's just how it goes, man. So after I spent some time with Eros, I was like, damn, this is really overrated and overhyped. But out of all these, I would say probably the Eros and the Club Derby House Blanche are the best. It's just that, they're underwhelming overall. Could be way better. But anyway, thanks for tuning in to part 3 now of colognes that I hate. So yeah, I don't hate every one of these colognes. Like the ones in the back, I don't hate. They're not terrible. They're not terrible bad, but the rest of them pretty much are. And like I said, this one I would probably give to a female. These ones are for like cheap, slutty girls that you meet off Plenty of Fish or something that you're probably not going to want to see a second time, or this reminds me of. But this one's not horrible, but it's just, it gives me a headache, so I might give that to a nice lady friend in the future. But Dreamer, really couldn't recommend it at all for anybody under any circumstances. Just terrible, outdated. I'm not terrible, but not good. The Salvatore Ferragamo, like I said, I worked at church a few times. Just meh. But the Thallium is the only one that I would say, yes, that's terrible. And these two are not great either, but like, ugh, even though it smells kind of good, it's just so freaking synthetic, and it gives me a headache every time. But all right, that's it. Thanks for tuning in. Peace.